right, so first of all, thank you for cruising with me this morning.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. It's nice to meet you, Chris.
It's good to meet you too, Margaret. And you know, I've heard bits and pieces about you. I know your nickname's Puddin'. I know that you're a former Miss Guam Universe.
That's correct.
Wow.
And so, I worked with Madeline.
And I've heard you also worked with Madeline. Now, let's talk a little bit about that relationship, working with Madeline Berdallo, your opponent now. When, where, how did this happen?
Well, this was in the late 60s, and Madeline was very active with the Guam Beauty Pageant, and so was my auntie Chilling Bamba, George Bamba's wife. And we simply worked together with modeling groups off island, on island, and probably about a year and a half I was involved with her in the local retail groups here on island.
And so would you say that you and Madeline are friends, or is just this something, a coincidence that you guys happen to work together way back when?
Well, I think that first I've known Madeline most of my life, and we've all grown up here on the island together. I knew both her and her husband, her family. My youngest son, one of his best friends going to school was Nicole, our granddaughter. But aside from that, we've taken different paths. And hers went to a political, where I went into the business world.
Yeah, and going into the business world, and obviously that took you away from Guam for quite a while, right?
Well, in some respects, I was away from Guam. I was in banking in the U.S. and then went into real estate development there, and opened up a business in Silicon Valley. The Archbishop here in Guam asked me if I would open up a business here to service our Catholic community on island, which I did. I came out to Guam and opened up an Ave Maria here on island, and I had it run by myself and my eldest son, John Francis, for about 5 years here at the cathedral. So we've gone back and forth. My boys were raised here. We brought them back here to go to school. They went to Bishop and then on to Duenas and to JFK, simply because the Silicon Valley area was quite full of that time of young people into drugs and alcohol, and this was a nice, safe environment. My kids couldn't leave school and get home without 4 people calling me and telling me what they were doing.
Giving you the report.
This was right. I grew up here. I was raised here. I could not have enjoyed a more positive environment for my own kids to have experienced.
You know, I was able to sit down with your opponent, Congresswoman Berdallo, and one of the points that she had brought up, and I don't want to get into tit for tat, but she brought up the point that not a lot of people know Margaret Metcaffe, and that you spent a lot of time away from Guam, and now you're back here running for Congress. And what prompted that? You know, what prompted you to be away from the island and to come back and you know, try and put your mark on the Guam political scene?
Well, throughout most of my life, I was back and forth here in business and in real estate and in retail here on Guam. I was not prominent in the political scene, which, you know, she is correct in. I never envisioned going into that arena. But you know, Chris, there comes a time, the last 7 years I cared for my mother. She was Pumpkin McDonald from Agana Heights, and she died at 94, sharp as a tack to the end. Yeah. And my mom had worked in Washington, D.C., and she kept saying to me that the best way you can help our people is to be here and getting involved in things, because we don't carry any votes here. Yeah. And a lot of my friends jumped on board, and before you know it, I thought, well, I'm going to check the scene out. Quite frankly, I came to offer our folks a choice. And at this point in time, there are people that are very devout to our former representative, and I respect that loyalty. However, we do have to start stopping and looking at the big picture and realize, are we going to settle for status quo and for the comments that are coming from Washington designating us as something less than first-class citizens?
Yeah,
or are we going to step up to the plate and make an issue of this?
This is a point I brought up with the Congresswoman, and of course you're talking about the recent court case about the the residents of the territories being able to vote for president, and the Obama administration kind of took the tack that they don't believe that we're real American citizens, so to speak.
Well, I think it goes even deeper than that. We are American citizens. We're not, Guam is not just where America's day begins. Guam is where America's fortifications begin. We are exceptionally vital to America and to America's way of life. And let me tell you, the powers that be in Washington and the powers that be in our military government know this already. We just have to let them know we know it, and we have to inform the rest of the population, because our Americans in the U.S. sleep better at night because we're here. And our people have paid the price. We have more people on Guam. We have a larger percentage of veterans and sacrificed heroes than most states, if not all of the 50 states.
You bring up an interesting point, and that Guam needs to know how valuable it is to the United States, because I think that ever since we've had a presence, if you will, in Washington D.C., we've kind of had this going to Uncle Sam with our hat in our hand, and do you think that maybe we need to be more confident in our approach, and like you said, let Uncle Sam know that we know how valuable we are, and then with that we get more at the table?
Well, you know, Chris, I think you hit the nail right on the head. The powers that be know how vital we are. We need to make sure the rest of the folks recognize that. The people that do have a vote that can affect the re-election of all of these congressmen and senators on the mainland, that we hope to entice to support our issues here in the Pacific. The only way we can get to them is through their voters, and the only way to get to their voters is for them to be informed as to the plight we're facing. You know, when we're being treated the way we are, designated as second-class citizens, for instance, or having mandates imposed on us, such as the compact, you know, it's almost like you're looking at a forest and you see this beautiful tree and you think we're all hunky-dory, and you don't see the big trucks and the lumberjacks pulling up in the back, just knocking the trees down left and right. That's where we are. We have this perfect little island. We're in paradise, and we don't see where our U.S. government is taking advantage of us. And it's simply because they don't understand how vital we are.
So what do you think about this argument that Congresswoman Berdallo has been in D.C. a long time, and that in order to create relationships and to open doors and to get places in Congress, you know, we need someone to be there a long time. And I pose this question to the Congresswoman: how long do you wait before you realize, hey, okay, we're riding this horse, we've been riding this horse 10 years, we ain't getting anywhere? 12.
She's been there 6 terms now.
So what do you think of this argument that, okay, let's say Margaret Metcalfe wins the general election, she's Guam's a delegate to Congress, she's gonna have a hard time because it's gonna take 5 years for people to even know her name, for her to get her foot in the door? Do you think that argument is a cop-out in some ways?
Well, first of all, I'm going to have to say that people that know me know different. I'm not a quiet butterfly. I don't sit in a corner. And a lot of people have and I didn't make this up, I've had people send it to me. Remember to put substance over seniority. And that's where I carry my clout. Substance. I'm a businesswoman. I am not a professional or career politician. I am not going to let it string out as long as it can to ensure my position there. I'm a businesswoman. What happens is, at the end of the day, have you done your job? Have you helped the people that you're there to serve? And the interesting thing about it is that how can we have honest representation when our representative chooses to have backroom deals and then bring mandates to Guam without the benefit of any of our input? And let me just mention one other thing. The Compact of Free Association is literally killing our economy, our culture, our way of life. And yet, the only time you can make any substantive change to this impact or compact is if you're there when it's reviewed and renewed. The last 2 times it was reviewed and renewed, 2003, 2011, the only representative not in attendance was ours. Now, you answer me, Chris. Can we say we are being 100% represented?
I think you bring up an interesting point with the compact impact, because especially with the recent increase in immigration to Guam over, let's say, the last decade. I mean, it's put a major strain on, public safety, health, and education, and
our medical, our prisons, our housing subsidies. We have people telling us that they've gone to GMH 3 times now for surgery for their mother for cancer, and all 3 times have been canceled because there is no room in the inn.
Yeah, and I've heard that before. But do you think that we need to be a little more firm with Uncle Sam? Because the way I look at it, with Madeline being a non-voting delegate, it's not like she can just storm in there and say, hey, I want to renegotiate the compact impact. Hey, I want the war reparations. But do you think that a lot of times they don't want to ask for renegotiations with a lot of these mandates because they're scared that, if we ask Uncle Sam to redo the compact impact, they're not going to bring the build up here and Guam's going to become a ghost town? Do you think there's a lot of that kind of mentality in Congress?
No, we're so vital. We're so vital to America, and our people need to know that. We are so vital. There is nowhere else they're going to take this. We will have a build-up. The question is how big and how soon. And the interesting thing about it is, here we all are, as Guamanians, looking at how many people can we accommodate in a buildup. Is it going to be 4,000? Is it going to be 6? Is it going to be 8? All the while, we have open borders and over 20,000 new immigrants. Now, there is no quota. As soon as our economy starts to spur from the buildup, do you not think that would be an enticement to all the other islands out there that are serviced by the compact? And we will be taking care, we will become a caregiving, underpaid caregiving nation for other island nations unless we bring it to the forefront. Now, you mentioned we can't storm. No, I am confident, as all of our folks are, American Congress, the American people are fair-minded people. They just need to know how bad it is. They need to be appraised of it. We need to make some waves. We need to bring it to some media attention, and we need to make sure that our U.S. Congress listens to us. And with that in mind, I feel confident we can come to a happy medium where our people are serviced.
With the compact impact, I think that there are ways that Guam's delegate to Congress could kind of correlate it with the immigration problems that they have in the U.S. I mean, at the border, with the immigration issues that happened there. And do you think that's one way we could familiarize, the people in the States and the congressmen and women from the U.S. about our problem with the compact impact?
Oh, Chris, you are so right on, and we're so blessed to have so many young people on this island that are so sharp and are so on top of things. That is exactly what's happening. None of the issues we face that we have problems with were speeding bullet trains. All of them are slow boats to China. We could have jumped on at any time. Just like this compact was not something that was created over a 3-day span. It took years. But this treaty that was recently signed, giving up some of our rights to the Marianas Trench without the benefit of having a representative there, by the way, that is something that was a year and a half in the making. But what happens is we get involved. We let people know about it. When it comes to immigration, they are contemplating right now. There are states and people that are contemplating giving voting rights to illegal aliens coming across the southern and northern borders of the U.S. All the while, we as U.S. citizens since 1950 are being denied those rights. Where is the equality there? Now, do people know this? No. The average American sees us as a military base that always has our hand out. We need to change that image. And, by the way, as a prior Miss Guam, you sign on when you sign on to participate in the program, to be a lifelong delegate and ambassador to your people. And that's exactly what I've done, and that's exactly the way I want to close my life out, is to do the same thing, because all of us have so many family and friends invested here, and we want Guam to be here for us.
I'm kind of curious about what you know about Washington, D.C., maybe who you know. Do you have any type of relationships that you've fostered over the years with anybody on Capitol Hill?
Well, mostly with our local politicians on the West Coast, and John McCain's group out of Arizona, simply because he sat on the committee. He chaired the committee that Madeline was on, and I wanted to have some input in those areas where these people knew we had concerns, and that we have over 600 families in Scottsdale, Arizona alone that are Chamorro, and they could influence his re-election, for instance. And so we've tried to energize a number of these people, and on the West Coast through Oregon and Washington and California. In addition to that, I have a brother-in-law who's an industrial developer, who's written many books on it, who's worked with, in fact, he just attended a conference down in Puerto Rico. He's helping Puerto Rico, which is also a territory, although they have 3.5 million people to worry about. But he accompanied several governors from neighboring states, as well as his own governor, and they're trying to find ways to help them better their economy and fight the situation that we're facing with the Jones Act and so many of these other issues. But the whole thing that it comes down to is that you can make friends in Washington very easily by being involved and being informed. And my mother left Guam in 1941 and went to Washington to go to college. She was a school teacher here in Guam prior to the war. Within a couple of weeks, she's working for the Department of Justice. And when the war broke out, everyone in Washington knew she was a little girl from Guam, because Guam was so vital. It was already taken by the Japanese. The Americans were trying to take it back. This is the type of stock I come from. I'm not a quiet person. I'm not a shy person. And people need to know that our families and our friends out here are 6,000 miles away from them, and we've got their back.
So you're kind of myth-busting this idea that because one of the points Berdalia brought up was, she said, oh, Chris, we have 90-year-old congressmen and women because, they have to be there 40, 50 years to get stuff done,
No, we have 90-year-old ones because they don't know enough to get out and get their own job, create jobs, and do something for their own communities. They feel it's okay to retire on your dime, and that is inappropriate and immoral. I think if you're not doing your job, and you're there for, I do believe we should have term limits, but I think you should go there, do your job, get out, and just pray that you have enough young people coming in that you can mentor and foster so that they can take the reins and go on. Because we know in this environment, coming from Silicon Valley, that's where my business has been. Silicon Valley. You don't succeed in Silicon Valley if you rely on what's in your archives. You have to change. Every time you buy a computer, by Tuesday it's already outdated. We're in a different world, Chris. We need to be on top of things. We need our young people involved. We need them taking the reins. And I think that's the most hopeful thing I see here, is that we have such a wonderful group of young people. I've been to GCC and UOG, and oh gosh, the folks I talk to are so much more than I was at their age.
Definitely a high level of awareness.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, people talk about politics. Nowhere in the world is politics more vibrant than it is here on our island. We eat, sleep, and drink politics. And I was a part of it growing up, just on the sidelines. I never thought I'd be in the midst of it. And now I can understand why it is so vital, because if you don't have the right people in the right place at the right time, things don't come together.
Now, you were recently appointed as a GOP National Committee woman, and you cleaned up the competition. I know it was just a primary, and some analysts are calling it an artificial election, but to me, the most votes gotten means most votes gotten, and you got the most votes for congressional delegate. Do you think that was how do you interpret that? Because I look at it as a strong Republican primary, but I really expected Madeleine to, no disrespect to you, but I expected her to do a little better. Do you think that it was just a Republican thing, or do you think that people are making a statement about who they want in Congress?
Well, first of all, if you read the PDN, you would think differently. Their headlines touted a different outcome from the election this last Saturday, and I think it was a bit misleading. I feel sad for the people because of that, when we expect our media to be factual.
That's why I watch KUAM News.
That's right. That's why we all do. But I have to tell you that what it does, it's, first of all, if I had to pick one word, it would be humbling. It has made me more humble to know that there are those many people that have faith that I can help them and make a difference. And what it does is it just gives you more reason that you can't let our folks down, and I will fight harder. You never take it for granted that you've got it. No matter what anybody says about the election, nothing's over until the last vote is cast. And I just hope, if I have any reservations about the election on Saturday, was I really truly would have loved to have seen more people vote, more young people, not just because it's something that is it's our privilege and our right to do, but they need to get used to remembering when election day is, when the primary is. You have to vote. My dad used to say, if you don't vote, you have no right to complain.
Yeah, people still complain.
Yes,
right, yeah.
That's right. And then you ask him, did you vote? I did, pudding, I forgot.
Yeah.
I'm going to forget. How can you forget?
I want to ask you about, I think the albatross of any delegate to Guam Congress, it's got to be war reparations. I mean, this is an issue that is still in the forefront, and sadly, a lot of the survivors of World War II are passing away, and in 10 years, I really don't think there are going to be that many of them left. And you mentioned John McCain, who's traditionally been opposed to war reparations. Do you think that this issue is dead in the water, or do you think that because the way I look at it, I think politically, a lot of our leaders, they kind of use it as a carrot, the carrot in front of the horse to keep the voters going, oh, I'm gonna try and get your war reparations. But realistically, I don't think Uncle Sam is ever going to pay war reparations. How do you feel about that issue?
Well, first of all, I certainly don't think it's a dead issue, and you are 100% correct. Our Manumco are starting to leave us slowly, and we're not going to have very many left that truly apply to this. But John McCain stuck his neck out and supported our representative in getting some more reparations to the tune of approximately 50-something plus $1 million. And when it was offered to us, our representative turned it down because one of the stipulations was that the money went to the Manumco that survived, the survivors, not to their heirs. And there were more votes with the heirs than there were in the Manumco. So it became a political decision to walk away from the table. I'm sorry, I'm a businesswoman. Someone hands me 50-something million dollars, I'm going, thank you, and I give it to the people that need it, that survived the war. The other thing I want to point out is that young person came up to me after one of the meetings and said, Ms. Margaret, what makes you think you're going to fight any harder for reparations? And this I gave a long, thoughtful, hard look to. And with all due respect to our Congresswoman and the work that she has done, she is trying to find reparations for her ex-husband's family that survived the war. The survivors in my family suffered tremendously. You can just imagine a fair-skinned family named McDonald with a U.S. flag flying in front of their house, what they were treated like by the Japanese. My mother was one of 11 children. At the end of the war, when Guam was liberated, there were 5 left, and that was the picture I put in the paper on Liberation Day. I wanted people to see my family and realize this is personal. Even if there is one Manumco left, we owe that individual. the dignity and the respect. I am so thankful that Frank Bloss has put his book together that highlights all of our survivors. I mean, what a legacy he has left for our families. These people, a lot of them are no longer with us, but there are some still here. And as long as they're here, we have to fight for it.
What's going to be your strategy as we get closer to the general election? Because as an observer of politics on Guam, I kind of noticed that you didn't really campaign so long before the primary. You went hard for maybe 2.5 months, at least in my eyes. And now that this is the big dance, it's winner take all. Are you planning to get out there more and to do more with advertising for the general election?
Well, yes, most definitely. And believe me, coming in so late was not intentional. We had expected to come in sooner, my husband and myself. The problem I encountered was I had one of my first cousins, who was raised as my brother, showed up in California stating that he had to have a triple bypass, and we all stayed until he was out of the woods. That was what slowed me down initially. Once I got here, I hit the ground running. I think the day I arrived, I went to the Election Commission and picked up my packet. And then I tried to connect with both Frank Bloss and Felix Camacho to find out where they were. Because my full intentions were, if someone was jumping into the race and was already qualified to deal with it, then I would jump on the bandwagon and support them. The problem that I ended up encountering was that it appeared, through most of the build-up to the election, it appeared as if Madeline was going to be running unopposed, and you can't allow what's happened for the last 12 years to continue and not give the people a choice. If they choose, if they're happy with the status quo, then that's fine, but they need to have a choice.
Do you feel, because I know I would, you drop these names, Felix Camacho, Frank Bloss Jr., these are some political heavyweights.
Oh, there are island leaders,
yeah.
And to be so respected, they've done well for us, and they represent what our true heartland is all about.
Yeah, but in one primary election, with no political experience whatsoever, you did more damage to Madeline Bordallo than they ever did.
Well, Guam's time is now, Chris. If we don't do it now, honey, we're going to be facing, a treeless forest, and we have to jump on board. I am just thankful that there are some people out there that see that we need to address some of these issues now. The issues I bring up are not Democratic or Republican issues.
Yeah.
These are island-wide, life-altering issues that every one of our families are going to have to encounter, and we need to take care of these before the tsunami. I keep making these crazy little things, but it's true. It's like we're standing on the beach watching this huge wave coming at us, hoping that we'll be all right by the time it gets here. It won't. We're already at 33% Chamorro on the island.
And dropping.
Yeah. There are more Chamorros on the mainland than here.
Yeah.
That's why I appeal to them, and that's why I call for their help, because they are concerned, but they can't get jobs here. They can't sustain a livelihood for their families. They can't provide the proper education. They can't provide the proper medical. We need to change that. Bring them back. Bring them back. And you know what? They want to come back, Chris. They just want the opportunities here that they're afforded there.
A more level playing
exactly,
field.
More level
equity
playing
between
field.
Guam and the mainland U.S.
Exactly. Yes,
kind
sir.
of a political pipe dream.
You know what? Prayer works.
So I just have to wish you good luck in the general election. You had a strong showing in the primary, and we'll see come November if the proof is in the pudding.
Proof is in the pudding. God bless you, dear.
So good luck, Margaret.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for cruising with me.
Thank you, hon, for giving me the time. And please, influence your friends, irregardless of which way they vote, to vote.
Get out there.
Get them registered, get them to vote. They have to be a part of the solution and not part of the problem. Part of the problem is closing your eyes and thinking everything will be taken care of.
And there is kind of that apathy with especially with the delegate race. Growing up, my mentality, until I found out more about how the system works. My mentality was like, oh God, why even bother voting for Congress? We can't even vote. You have to go up there. You got to kiss all these American butts. What's the real point? But I think that with the right person in there, things could happen.
Well, I'll tell you what, Chris. I'm praying that we're put on this earth for just a short time, and every minute we have is a gift from God. What we do with that time is our gift to Him, and it's time for us to make some decisions that will secure our futures.
Margaret, it's been a pleasure chatting with you and getting to know you better.
Chris, I have to tell you, my husband is Chris, my son is Christopher. Believe me, Christ bearer. You carry a lot of weight on your shoulders.
Hey, what's in a name?
Hey, listen, let me tell you, I believe in him.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, dear. God bless you. Okay.
Brought to you by Triple J, celebrating 30 years of putting our customers first.